today we'll be talking about pollution of the Hudson River. So this is the Hudson River. The Hudson River starts its journey high in the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York. The river heads from the headwaters up here. The headwaters start in Lake Tier of the Clouds, and it flows 315 miles towards New York City, which is right down here, and into the upper New York Bay. This river has been used for hundreds of years, dating back to the American Revolution. The Hudson was the scene of numerous battles, including the decisive American victory at Saratoga and the naval battle of Tappan Zee. So this is a picture of, I guess, a drawing, but this is what they did. They stretched a chain all the way across the river to stop British ships from going upstream. So this is what they did. And yeah, that's it. Okay, so this is a quick video showing, it shows like what it looks like near the headwaters. So, you want to watch it now?
Sure.
Video? Okay. Let me see if I can click on it. Should I just turn my iPad on?
Yeah, just turn that'll be the easiest way. I'm sure my speakers will plug into yours.
The Hudson River begins high in the Adirondack Mountains, right here, in this spot, on the side of Henderson Lake, near the town of Newcomb, New York. This is what the Hudson...
It's not going big.
That's okay. Don't worry about
Okay.
it. We can still see it.
River looks like right at its start. It is so small here that you can jump across from rock to rock when the water is low, and it is hard to believe that this small ribbon of water could become the tremendous 3-mile wide arm of the sea that we know down near the mouth of the river. Up here at the beginning of the Hudson, the mighty river is just a trickle. But the true source of the Hudson is even higher in the mountains. The highest source of the Hudson is Lake Tier of the Clouds, and that is what my son Nick and I set out to reach. It is the highest point where water flows into the Hudson River. It is also the highest lake in New York State, and it sits on the shoulder of Mount Marcy, the highest mountain in New York State. There are no roads to Lake Tier of the Clouds. It is located in the high peaks section of the Adirondack Mountains. To get way up here, Nick and I backpacked for 3 days, starting in Henderson Lake, where the river officially begins. First, we followed the Calamity Brook to Lake Colden, where we set up camp. The packs we carried were heavy. They included safety gear, food, water, sleeping bags, a tent, cooking supplies, and even a canister which could keep the bears out of our food. We kept that far from our campsite on the other side of a creek, just in case any tried. The next day we set out from our campsite to climb up to the lake with lighter packs, with just what we needed for the day. Even with the light packs, the trails are hard going. We went up 1,500 feet in just a short distance, but we still had some fun along the way. We followed the Opalescent River and then turned up the Feldspar Brook, climbing higher and higher as we went. Finally, at the top of the trail, at the top of the brook, we found tiny Lake Tier of the Clouds, the highest point where water flows towards the Hudson. Here, the brook that will become the Hudson River is just 2 steps wide. Take a look.
It's cool, but I was kind of hoping, like, be like, oh man, I would love to throw a fishing rod in there, like great musky fishing, but it doesn't look like it's so shallow.
It's a really small lake. Like that's it.
That video actually worked really good for this.
See?
Really well, I guess. Really well. Watch my grammar.
Still got a lot of subscribers. Is that a fish? I think he had a fish.
Was it?
I think so.
It's a frog.
Was it?
It's a frog.
There you go. Go back to my presentation.
Whoa.
Okay. So this is a picture of basically what the Hudson River looks like today. And this is what it looked like in 1973. This is all oil that was dumped into the river. In 1973, this is one of the 300 oil spills they had that occurred in the first 6 months of 1973. So about 300 oil spills happened just in 6 months. In that same year, there was a 3-month span where there was 487,000 gallons of oil that was dispersed into the river and its tributaries. There was also, in the same decade, there was about 6 million gallons of coal dumped into the river by the Edison power plant. Also, between 1947 and 1977, the river was used for something else. The General Electric poured nearly 600,000 kilograms of PCBs into the river. PCBs were used for insulation for transformers and capacitors. PCBs are highly toxic in industrial compounds. When the PCBs were dumped into the river, they were gained by the river's environment. This is why you're not supposed to eat fish from the river or even swim in it. If humans ate PCBs or consumed them into their body, they bind to the molecules and damage DNA. It is also linked to many health issues like cancer, thyroid disease, and memory problems. Here's another video.
Certain times and in certain locations, and it varies quite a bit from location to location, we can have very poor water quality, and so that's what we really want to work on.
The culprit? Outdated sewer systems, where sewage en route to a treatment plant.
Just for a second, I want to stop here and show. So today, not as many stuff was dumped into the river. The only way the river is really polluted now is from their sewage system. The sewage system is really outdated, and what happens most of the time is when they have a storm. You see here's the picture. When the storm, the water rises and it mixes with the sewage water, which ends up ends up going to the river. So that's what ends up happening now with their pollution.
Mixes with stormwater and overflows into the river. The EPA estimates 23 billion gallons of raw sewage and other pollutants flow into New Jersey's waterways every year.
Sewage contamination, other fecal contaminations, what could make you sick immediately from going swimming. You might get a stomach illness is the most common. Ear and eye infections are common. There are more serious types of illnesses that can result, but those are the most common things.
Legislators passed a bill in January to increase public awareness on how polluted the water is at any given time. Sewage system operators would be required to notify the State Department of Environmental Protection within an hour of a spill, and the DEP would have to notify the public. But Governor expire without signing it. In March, the governor's office required 25 municipalities and wastewater authorities, mostly in urban areas, to develop long-term strategies to combat combined sewer outflow. The executive director of the Bayonne Municipal Utility Authority tells NGTV News that the challenge is twofold: upgrading the system so that stormwater can be collected and stored until it can be treated, and then treating it so it's clean when it's returned to the environment.
Well, even in New York City and New Jersey, we see thousands of people taking part in public swim events, the triathlon, other events of that kind, and then a lot of informal swimming. So just today, someone sent me a video of kids swimming in the Harlem River. This is the beach. This is our public beach, and particularly for people who don't have the means to go away for the summer, don't have the means to go to a pool, this is where we're swimming.
The Hudson River Keeper report includes recommendations for the public, like don't flush anything down the toilet except toilet paper, even if it's marked flushable. If you don't rely on the public sewage system, inspect your tanks regularly, and conserve water so that there's less being treated by the water treatment plants. Be aware of any litter or any garbage in the streets so that it's not flushed down into the water pipes during storms. In Fort Lee, I'm Erin Delmore, NJTV News.
So that's a good video to show how the pollution is happening now. So with that, dilution. Dilution is what happens when chemicals, or in this case, we had oil dumped into the river, how it gets diluted. So here's an example. Say 1 drop of food dye is about a bunch of oil going into the river. And then with this, you have a little bit of dilution. It's still there, but it's not as dark as it can be. So if you have, say, 3 times the amount going in, it won't be as diluted. See how much darker it is? So with that, the more stuff that goes into the river, the harder it is to get clean. Thank you.